What is going on, guys? Today we're going to be looking at the meta midfielders in FIFA 23. We've got a handful of very top end cards that we're going to absolutely blitz through and just go over what makes a midfielder good. We're looking at DMs, CMs and CAMs and the best of the best in that position. If you want to see a tier list, they'll be at the end of the video linking to that, so stay tuned for that. We've got Yaya Toure coming in first and we're looking at the DMs as you can imagine. In terms of DMs, we're looking for somebody who's very good at the defensive side, but maybe has a little bit of passing going on, dribbling looking pretty good. And I think Yaya is definitely DM orientated, but can push forward, obviously with his height, with the strength. He's got that ability to move forward as well. In terms of kind of finishing, if you really wanted to, you could go with a chem style, but I would 100% recommend going with the shadow. Boost up the pace as much as possible, as well as that defending, getting it way above 85, 86, because he's already got the physical, already got a good amount of passing, and dribbling, even though the agility balance is a little bit lower, still works absolutely fine with his height being 6'2". Are you tired of using players like this? I would much rather have teams more like this. Then I recommend going over to skycoach.gg for all of your coaching and coins needs. They are cheap, fast and reliable, but at the checkout make sure you are using code JT11 for a discount on your orders. Back to the video. If we look at a counterpart, Essien most definitely is more DM orientated, not necessarily known for the centre mid role as much, still has the good passing, but very much focuses 90 on the defending and physical. And with 85 pace already, you could go with the anchor, and if you really wanted to just go all out pace, the shadow is there as well. And I think the prime definitely does work for that. If you're looking at a cheaper option, definitely the base would be a nice one as well if you wanted to go for him. We then have Kante. To be honest, if it wasn't for the fact that it is a winter wildcard and has very nice stat upgrades compared to the base of what we've got from Kante, it's a nice card. I feel like we're starting to go out of the Kante era a little bit. I'm definitely not seeing him as much as we have done in previous years, just purely for the fact the gold card was one that you just always went to. Still very high rated, but most definitely not as effective as he has been in previous years. But this is a nice step for him. If maybe we could get a footage of him, really see that top end, because I don't think we're going to be seeing a team of the season. It would be nice to kind of get to that 95, 96 Kante at the end of the game as well. Then we have a new Team of the Year icon, Makalo. Incredible player here. Obviously has right mid due to his base, but can be DM and CM. And just in general, he's a very nice upgraded card. Makalo his prime wasn't terrible, and I think it's got some play if you have him untradeable, but most definitely doesn't come under the meta side of this. Whereas now we've got this Team of the Year icon version, actually does give a great game. We've got 85 pace on him already, 90, 89 on the defender physical split, as well as cracking agility balance, good amount of passing, just a solid DM if you went for it right there. And one of my favourites, Xabi Alonso, his SBC was absolutely cracking to do, because we didn't have really any other SBCs that I personally wanted to. We already finished Zidane, so it was just a no-brainer to get this guy in. Again, like all of the Team of the Year icons, he's just been upgraded to the max. It's beautiful to see. Flair and flare passes as the two traits, and just a great stat overall. We go with the shadow obviously to get to the 88 pace, gives him 90 plus defended, and he's already got a very well balanced kind of route across everything, and has managed to score a few goals for me as well. Then we go into some CMs, and one of the ones that personally I haven't done, but I don't feel like I will do if he is still there. Pogba is absolutely crackers as well. He doesn't necessarily fit what I want, personally, for the fact that I've got a DM and a box-to-box. He wouldn't take over Zidane's spot for me personally, especially putting in 1.6, 1.7 mil worth of fodder. But what I've seen from him is very good, like we know with Pogba. Again, we would be, well, I was kind of hoping for a FUT birthday version, to be honest. Get that 5.5 Pogba going, a 93, 94 would have been incredible for him. But in general, this card has always been a force. Very tall, obviously coming in at 6'3", and has the great stats across. Again, a shadow is going to be what works for him. Gets that pace maxed out as well as more defending. Even though we do have some nice stats, it's mainly defensive awareness that is kind of dropping that overall down, but everything else is brilliant. Then we have Tony Cruz. Again, I feel like he's one or the other. I really like him personally just because he's had such an upgrade, a 5'5". He is great at that box-to-box role. Passing is absolutely immaculate. Defending is not necessarily incredible, and shooting definitely takes the more favoured route for him. So I would say he does need kind of DMs with him, but in general, the card absolutely slaps if you have got him still. Obviously being an SBC, you cannot get him anymore. We then have Patrick. Again, I don't think there's much more arguments for him there. 6'4". If you've got his World Cup, you obviously got that one for just putting in tokens, but his prime is still going to be absolutely elite. Him, Pogba, obviously Yaya, Hullet, they are all absolute ballers at such a massive height. It just works. The defending physical is incredible. Doesn't necessarily have the agility balance, and it's why if I was to pick between Hullet and him, Hullet would always come out on top purely for the fact he has that going forward mentality. Whereas Vieira, even though yes, he can push a little bit, I most definitely want him chilling around that CDM role, releasing the ball when he needs to and let the attackers do what they can. Hullet almost floats his way through and can do both. But Vieira as a defensive mid and slash box to box is still very, very nice. And I think my more favoured one, Matthias, if you could sit him in between a very tall DM, maybe even a tall box-to-box, he's just absolutely light speed going past people. He's got great pace, great shooting. Yes, the finishing could do with some work, but most definitely you've got room to play with a chem style, purely for the fact that the defending already pretty good. If I've got a tall CDM or CM next to him, don't have to worry too much about head and accuracy. Strength could be a little bit better, but in general, he just manages to mop up the floor with anything. I don't know how and I don't know why, but he is absolutely elite. If we manage to get a bigger version of him with maybe a 4-4, a 5-4, then it'd be just absolutely lights out. This card can do a lot. And then we go to another Team of the Year icon in Polo. Again, big praises for these new Team of the Year icons, World Cups. Incredible. I've never seen a Polo work so well in the team. Even though, yes, very heavily on passing, not necessarily defensive at all, he still just runs the park. He's a great outlink for your defensive mid to go to a mid to then push it forward. Doesn't necessarily have that defensive prowess that we need, so we would definitely need to be involved with someone like an Essien, like a Yaya, or somebody very heavy on that DM role, because he's just not going to be able to do it. I think when we did use him, there was very little chance to actually defend with him because he was always the out player. He was always somebody from the box, from a corner, from a counter attack. He's in the middle, he's waiting, and then you just play off him. That is where he is. But I think the big thing that I've got from his prime to this version is the agility balance is absolutely brilliant on that turn. Very, very quick on getting the ball out. And obviously with the passing he's got, is absolutely elite mentality with it. And then we go into the Team of the Years. I think we've got Bellingham, Modric and KDB. I think we've got Modric loan as well, but I don't know why it's not put it in. But in general, these three are incredible. All of them, I think, yeah, 4-star for the first two, 4-5 for KDB, and the stats are pretty similar across the board. Yes, you obviously have Bellingham with a bit more defensive and physical aspects, whereas Modric and KDB are more based on that shooting side of stuff / the passing. Obviously, 92 on Bellingham is still not going to be overlooked, but 97 and 98 passing on the other two, you can tell the difference between them, and I think any of them, you'd be very ecstatic to have them in your team. There is no better CMs in terms of Team of the Year. They all are brilliant. And then, obviously, Team of the Year icon Hullet. Any version, mid, prime, Team of the Year, every version's practically the same. It just gets slightly better each time. And again, Hullet is just, he's one of them players. There's a reason why he's one of the most expensive players on the game. Even with all of these Team of the Years, he still comes in at a huge, huge value. I would probably recommend going for the prime or mid over going the Team of the Year, because I think last time I checked, the Team of the Year was about 11 mil. I just can't pay that. I don't think anybody could pay that. There's very few people that have 10 mil liquid ready to put on a card and not have in the club or just chilling around. So it's a very hard one to go with him. I would suggest just going for his prime, as you're going to get the same sort of output. Then we have a few of the cams. So we have Fakir in the first one. And to be honest, I'm half and half with him. I've chucked him in because I know a lot of people do like him, and I have seen him quite a bit in teams recently. He's kind of had a shift back to himself, but I think last year he was very relevant in that cam role. I feel like a lot of people definitely played with more of a cam role, whereas I think this year, personally for me and myself, it's very balanced. I like a balanced midfield. A cam in the kind of centre mid role doesn't work unless you've either got a very heavy defensive mid or you play in a different way. So for me, Fakir wouldn't work in my setup. I'd definitely have to go for maybe a wing sort of play with him, just purely for the fact I could go with more pace. I feel like he would work on a 4-2-3-1, being like a left or right cam. Obviously being left-footed and getting the finesse trait, that is always a good option for the right cam. But in general, in terms of being in a centre mid, I just don't think he's going to work very well, and obviously the top of the top is what's going to work well in that cam. We then have Pires. Even though I do personally like him as a striker, he definitely could do some work as a cam as well. Somebody who is almost on that bridge, who's going to be doing the 1-2s with the striker, bringing himself up almost like a striker without technically being there. He's still going to do fantastic. He's quick on the ball, great pace, great shooting on him, especially with that hunter. He just does the job for me, but I personally just use him as a striker anyway. Then we have Cherokee. Very little to say about this guy other than he is an absolute baller. We used him as soon as he came out, and by God, he was incredible. So if you want to check the review out on that, wait until the end of this and then go check the video as well, because he is just a baller. 5-star, 5-star, come up from a silver left wing, I want to say, and he just has a great stat upgrade. Again, he's an absolute genius on the ball. Very quick on the turn, good skills, good passing, shooting's nice. Go with a hunter as well. You've got a very more upgraded Pires version for a little bit more of the cost as well. We then have a probably not so kind of varied opinion. Hadji. Actually a baller in this game. 4-star, 5-star, medium low, which again work rate's not the craziest, but in terms of stats and in terms of in-game on the ball, absolutely brilliant. He's got a great turn on him. You go with the hunter, you max out that pace as much as possible. You end up with a figure about 93 pace and 90 plus shooting. He just really is very well on that ball. I've always found him to be very quick, very good at making that cam roll his own, and does really well with it. So unfortunately we did get a World Cup icon which has had an upgrade on that weak foot. So whether we see another campaign of him later on is down to the question. But I think he's absolutely brilliant, especially for the price as well. Then we move on to the kind of top end now. We've got Neymar as the 5-star, 5-star. Again, very little needs to be said against him. We are looking for a bigger upgrade for him, because I think now we've got the 91. We are done with it. We've got a 91 Vinny. We've got a 95 Ronaldinho. There's a lot now that we need to really get the hype up on Neymar, so I can imagine we will be seeing a FUT Birthdays version. Even though he's already a 5-5, it's kind of their way of giving you a next top end. It'd be interesting to see. I know Road to the Final, I believe, is next, so it'll be interesting to see where Neymar goes from this. If not, maybe a team of the season as the next card for him potentially. And as you saw, Gomez, again, a 5-5, absolutely brilliant. A path to glory. He's got the stats, 99 in the agility balance, very quick on the turn. If you're going to be talking about cams, he's the guy. Strength-wise, yes, absolutely abysmal. So you do not want to be going one-on-one with anybody with this card, because he just doesn't work. He will get absolutely battered off the ball. But in terms of what he can do on the ball and away from defenders, it's just perfect. The dribbling's spectacular. The pace and the acceleration is fantastic. You whack a bit of kind of finishing on him, and you've got yourself a cracking card right there. And again, I think he is overlooked a little bit, personally, because he doesn't come out of PSG, and he's obviously not in the Prem. La Liga, not quite got the hype this year as what previous has, when we have had the Ronaldo Messis, but it definitely is one to not overlook and have a look at if he could fit into your team. But I would say he has got to be a cam or left wing, right wing, not really going to be playing in that centre mid role. And then, as we talked about him before, Ronaldinho needs very little introduction other than he is just sensational. Would have been so much better with a 5-5. It's just aspects that there's very little more that you need from him, because in terms of what he does, is just perfect. One of the most expensive cards in the game. Very, very hard to get he was, and especially because now he's technically out of packs, which hopefully later on in the game we might see that come back. But as of yet, we don't know if it will do. More than likely during footies we'll get all of the best versions of icons as well. So that would be very interesting, but what a player this guy is. Then we have Baggio, a 5-star, 4-star. Again, like Gomez, a little bit overlooked, but I would say during Rivals last week, I saw 3 different teams with him in, And I'm just saying, you don't really see, you kind of see the patterns of teams, because you see a solid defence, you see a normal goalkeeper, maybe you even see the normal striker. But in terms of midfield, that's where it can vary a lot. And I was very surprised that I saw Baggio quite so much, because when I've used him, he was actually relatively good. Agility, balance, even though 81, 82 definitely came in handy for him. He's got a good turn on him, obviously has that 5-star skills, which again works really well. But I've been seeing him pushed out wide a little bit more, so he is kind of more of that 4-2-3-1 right side cam or left side cam, and he does an absolute job there. Then we have the final one, which is going to be Zidane. We'll have a look at a few more midfielders as well. But Zidane, again, very little needs to be said. Incredible prime card. If you did do the mid, I'm still liking him in that midfield. He definitely does the work up and down the pitch. Even though the defensive side of him is not crazy good, he still just puts himself in the way. And that's good enough. That is all I need from him. We've got Xabi Alonso to do all the cleanup there, and then the defenders to do the rest. But what a card this is. And then if we're just going down the midfield, obviously there's right mid and left mids here. But in terms of kind of what we're looking at, in fact, if we go to cams, I feel like it's very similar as we go through. There is a few players that definitely stand out, but in terms of what I've seen and the actual meta, like a Royce, it's a very nice card in general. Some good stats on him, but in general, he's not going to be fitting into anywhere. Not many people are rocking a German team. Not many people are rocking a BVB team, or obviously a Bundesliga team. Warren, I personally was looking at him, but he is a striker in my opinion. He is great at that striking role or the wing, and I know I've put a few players that probably are the same, but in general, I personally rate him as a striker. Nakata, not a bad one again, but we are looking at the best of the best, and if we are kind of going down into the 87s, 85s, you've got to be looking at some very spectacular players for that to happen. We're looking at a Yaya as an 87, a Lucio as an 88 or 89, whatever he is. That's when they can be considered as the meta players. As we go into Brian Diaz, Pellegrini, they're not going to be the best of the best. If we have a look at centre mids, again, very similar. The only one that I can think of that probably should be in the shout as well would be a Marquisio, but I've definitely been seeing things that he is starting to now slow down that little bit more. Like I said in previous videos, we could do with a hero upgrade, something to really get them levels back up again, because we're starting to see them really fade away, other than your Ginolas, your Yayas, and to some extent your Marquisios, but definitely now becoming less of the curve. And then finally DMs, which I think is the hardest one to find this year, other than the absolute tops. There's very little that I'm like, yes, this guy will do an absolute job. There is a few semi-good ones. Fofana's not a bad one. Timber from yesterday is actually a nice one. But again, links-wise, you're going to have to really put something in. And I have seen a lot of people like the centre-back version as well as the CDM. So again, all depends on the preference of what your team is. And that's going to be the video today. Let me know down below who your best midfielders are. Make sure you do like and subscribe on this, and check out a video ranking all of the mids on a new tier list. Take care.